Hey folks, Studio here, and today we're going to be talking about team composition and playing as a team. We're going to be looking at a really cool grouping and team from 4Not.Fire from the recent, I believe this was Leaguepedia. Yes, Leaguepedia. Now, I've been talking a lot about solo queue lately, about me being me, you being you, just everybody in the universe playing their favorite characters and playing them in the styles they enjoy and all that stuff. But when you're playing as a cohesive unit, as 5 people, all of you planning together to do your thing, what you gotta do, you have to go ahead and play as a team. Now that might be really obvious, but for a lot of people it's kind of a big deal. They don't play as a team, they don't play characters in ways that will actually benefit their team. They don't play as if they're playing with 4 other people that they know on Skype or Ventrilo or Mumble or TeamSpeak or whatever the hell, all of you sitting around in a LAN yelling at each other. People don't play like that quite often, and it shows. But let's talk about compositions. Now, compositions for a team can vary quite a bit. A lot of people will just be like, what will win our lanes? Oh, that'll win our lanes? Okay, we'll pick those characters. And that can sometimes work, sometimes it won't. That used to be the metagame way back when, I'd say about a year and a half ago, maybe a year ago. No, more than a year ago for sure, because we're already past season 1 finals. That's how long season 2's been going on, man. This is a big season. But there was a time where all you want to do is win lanes. Now that's no longer the case. Now you have to have like a goal, a plan. Some teams, for example, like Solo Mid, have ran Karthus Kayle. Now, why is Karthus Kayle a cool combination? Because it gives Karthus an extra 2 to 3 seconds of guaranteed survival, and with that he can spam lay waste, he can keep his defile up. It's a few more seconds of Karthus DPS, which is massive because Karthus does just amazing amounts of damage. That's why people still focus him at the beginning of fights, even though he's going to be alive afterwards, essentially, just to spam his skills, because if you don't kill him fast, you end up dying just because of how much damage he does. So you have to have a cohesive plan generally, some sort of goal. One I actually ran into in solo queue that was actually kind of cohesive was that they had Blitzcrank, Nautilus, and Morgana, I want to say. So they had these like 3 great skills just to pull people in or get them caught in position. It was actually god-awful because the entire enemy team could catch us and it sucked. But some sort of goal, some sort of focus. So this was a game from 4Not and Leaguepedia. Go ahead and start booting it up. Gonna start loading right now. But what was their composition? So there's a few things we have to talk about first. There's like really obvious things that may sound important, and then there's less obvious things that actually aren't that important, or that are more important than the obvious things. But I think I should go ahead and switch to the scene that actually has League of Legends. So the first minute of this replay got cut off for some reason, but it doesn't matter, we're going to see a cool team in action. Now, the composition from 4Not is going to be Shyvana, Takashi, Zekant, Pearl, and Martel. Martel replacing Trix for this game. And have you noticed something? Have you noticed that there's more than one support? I didn't want to go ahead and say the characters because that kind of spoils it, but they have Sona and Janna. And what this does is Janna takes a 1v2 lane. We'll max out Howling Gale first and just kind of farm the lane safely. We'll take a glance at that. It's not a common 1v2, normally people will say like pick Yorick. For a while it used to be pick Cho'Gath. But this is a pretty cool 1v2. She doesn't have sustain, but she has a great farming mechanism because eventually you just clear waves with your Howling Gale. You pretty much can't be stopped. It's incredibly good, incredibly solid. Not the best in the end because Janna with farm isn't that effective, but Zekant will actually try and solve that problem on his own later. But we'll dive into that later. And the composition as a whole, what do they do? What is their strength? Now, excuse me, sorry. I made some ramen, like not instant ramen, just like home cooked ramen. And it's actually kind of having something on my stomach because I think I put in a bit too much spicy stuff, and it's killing me, man. But what does their team do? What is this general plan they have? Well, let's go ahead and look at some move speeds. So Takashi X starts at 389 with Just Boots 1. One Bad Bread is going to have Burnout, Zegan is going to have Zephyr soon enough, and he's already at 371. People are going to be moving really quickly, really quickly. So it's not going to take a lot, but eventually it would just some items will come out and the team will move fast. Then you factor in that Tristana is going to be able to be very mobile with her rocket jump, and then of course Zegan will have teleport. Takashi X will have his ultimate. One Bad Bread won't have the same mobility, but it's going to be more like a Pearl on Tristana. One Bad Bread on Shyvana will have Dragon's Descent, so that blink / ultimate. And then Martel, well, I'm sorry, Sona, you don't get mobility. Nobody cares about you. Nah. Now, they have mobility. They don't have a lot of teamfight presence, though. Shyvana doesn't have great hard CC. She has a pullback. Takashi X will have a single target stun. Jenna has a lot of CC, but I mean, it's hard to land, and if she doesn't charge, she will lose out on quite a bit of damage. And it's also like no great initiator. Shyvana can dive in there. That's about it. There is no Alistar. There is no Nocturne. There is no massive Cassiopeia group ult. So they're fast. They're mobile. How will this play? Well, let's go ahead and look at that. We'll even speed up a bit because we didn't really miss any more. And this is really loud for me. I don't know why. Okay. If it's really quiet, sorry about that. Trying to adjust my audio. It's weird because it's like League of Legends isn't responding by audio settings. But to this game, so what will Team Dynamic do? So Janna's going to try and 1v2 that. They know this. They know that Zegan wants to 1v2. It's what he's done in solo queue. It's what he's done in the past. Like, they went into the game knowing that's what he wanted to do. So they're going to send Riven bottom because they expect Zegan to 1v2 there. And these two knuckleheads top, Pixel and Zig, two great players. So why did they do that? Well, they thought Zegan would go top lane. They thought Janna would be up here, or down there, trying to catch him by surprise, and they thought they would catch her by surprise. As you can see, that was not the case. So this was just a mind game. This is something cool about the strategy. It forces you to guess. It forces you to go, okay, which lane will have the 1v2, which lane will have the R2v1. And you have to go ahead and adjust what the enemy team will do. Now, in this case, it's kind of luck. It's kind of a mind game where you go, all right, I think the enemy team will go ahead and send Janna bot, so we'll go bot. But what if the enemy team thinks we'll do that, so they'll send her top instead? It's like a game of rock, paper, scissors where you go, oh, they're going to pick rock, well, I'll pick paper, but then they might pick scissors because I picked paper, so I'll pick rock, but then they'll just go ahead and pick paper, so I should pick scissors. Like, there's a big circular logic. There is no right response, which is actually the sign of a good game. That there is no response to some situations because it moves it forward. It's why, you know, people can play rock, paper, scissors and, you know, actually go ahead and find it somewhat enjoyable. I wouldn't say it's a great game, but it's, you know, going to be different every time unless someone's really bad at it. But we see Zegan up in this lane. He's trying to farm. He's trying to do something like get some gold. And what's he at? 10 CS. Not a lot of CS. He's gotten a decent amount of experience. How's Revan doing? Oh. Not as well. Only 6 CS. Underneath the turret, being harassed. And he doesn't have the same response that Zegan does. Zegan can go ahead, clear waves with his Q, go ahead and shield himself from any harass. I do believe that's what he put a second point into. And with a shield, he can actually last hit underneath his turret. It's a big problem Janna has. She has crappy auto attack damage, only 58 by level 3, which is not very high. It's not that low for an AP, but when you have to last hit under turret, you don't have a spammable skill like Andy's Q, for example, and Andy's Disintegrate, then it's a big issue. But Zegan up in the top lane, we actually see the gold difference growing, and just going slightly and slightly more in favor of 4Not, and that's because of the zoning happening bottom lane. And if you look at the CS across the board, they're at about, let's see, about 80 CS right now on all of 4Not, so Twisted Fate's ultimate brings in about 160. So pretty cool. Now, there's something really cool about Twisted Fate. He died right there. That's not the cool part. It wasn't very interesting. He tried to fight Cassiopeia. Paradoxical was able to get a bit of an upper hand. One more like gold card would have been enough, but it was well played from Bear. But what's cool about Twisted Fate in this lineup is that right now this forces passive gameplay. When you have 1v2 in the top lane and 2v1 in the bot lane for either side, that one probably won't die. So the people who are on their own, they most likely will not die just because they're going to be playing incredibly passively, incredibly defensively. As long as they don't blow their summoners before minion spawn and engagement, they should be a-okay. Now, Why does that make Twisted Fate good? His passive becomes better, because if all the lanes are being passive, and you're just CSing equally, you will slowly gain an advantage. Now, it's not going to be a huge advantage. It usually isn't a game decider. But to put it in perspective, so right now, Janna is ahead by 12 CS, but with that first blood, right now Team Dynamic is actually still equal on gold. They're actually a tiny bit behind, like 100. Spartan will catch up because they went ahead and rotated, but I mean, their gold difference isn't there. So they made 400 gold just through CSing and just through Twisted Fate's passive, which is pretty cool. So the game starts out, they throw the enemy team for a loop by going ahead, putting Zekin up here, and they had some good time to kind of grow their characters. Now, I mentioned this before last time, like, what is a song for characters? Well, when you're a group, you're more of a band. And what is the band right now for 4Not? Well, Tristana's going to be on vocals. She's going to be backed up by Martel on Sona and Zekin on Janna. And just some of the numbers, for example, Hymn of Valor, which is Sona's aggressive song, will go ahead and provide an extra 20 attack damage at max rank. Janna's Shield will provide an extra 50. So you combine those two numbers, you have 70 attack damage on Tristana. That's going to be coming for free. And this composition, combined with his passive early game, is trying to go for a quick late game for 4Not. They're going to go ahead and ramp up Tristana very quickly. She'll have a lot of CS, a lot of gold, and a lot of just passive attack damage coming under her. And of course, this is at the sacrifice of a traditional top lane, a traditional, initiator. They don't have anybody tanky except for one bad Brad. They don't have any hard CC, and they make that sacrifice just because Parole will eventually be in a position where, with Quicksilver Sash, he cannot be stopped. I never noticed Zig missing that buckshot. Not too sure what happened with that. I think it might have been a misclick, where his finger might have slipped Q on accident, and he just smart casted it in the wrong direction. So, oops. Sorry, Zig, that I caught that. But the composition is there in support of Parole. Now, they don't necessarily want to get into team fights, but if they're far ahead, which they can do with this composition, and choose fights of their own choosing, they can go ahead, get ahead, and Tristana will just win games later on. And this is something cool. So Parole on Tristana. Tristana is not considered the best AD carry in the game early on, but she is one of the best later on. So late game, she will have 706 range, I believe, maybe 703. And with that rapid fire, with that just auto attack steroid, one of the best steroids in the game, when you have a lot of AD, she will just shred people to bits. Now, why have I not really looked at laning phase? We've been in the lanes, there's a lot going on, but it's not necessarily that important. And the reason is because, like I said, it should be passive. So this lane, there's now a chance for aggression, but just because there's a slight CS advantage in favor of Parole, they're playing a bit more defensively. He has one door with Blight up, so the aggression cannot really come out from Team Dynamic. And that's partially because 4Not can choose how they back. They can choose when they go down, they're going to be pushed up constantly, so they'll have that advantage. And Zekin has a choice of which lane he goes to because of teleport. Now, there's a big reason teams run the AD carry in the bot lane normally. This guy right here. I forgot what his name is. It's not Even Ma, I can tell you that for sure. But this dragon. Why this dragon? Why teams go ahead and put the duo in the bot lane? Alright, let's go ahead and watch the Alvin start doing it. And then let's ask ourselves if TF, Shyvana, and Janna could stop this. No, they could not. They don't know what's happening. They do spot paradoxical there. Like they know what's happening, but they cannot stop it. They're aware of this. And actually, I do love that the other one uses ultimate just to go ahead and block one bad Brad's vision, and they get the dragon and back off. By the way, it's like the most dangerous thing in the game right now. It's a 3v5, and they actually do go ahead and initiate. And the ultimate from Zekin's huge, just because Spartan couldn't chase with his own flash. But that is why teams go ahead. They always have someone at Dragon. They always have AD carry, or not someone at Dragon, but the AD carry by Dragon. They know that two people, especially when they eventually get their ultimates, are going to be much more useful than one person. Especially because a lot of top laners too, like early on they're good in lane, but they're not less necessarily team fight oriented just because they need items, or they need tankiness, or they need damage. Like there's something missing in a lot of top laners for the early part of the game. So Parole up in that top lane will be able to get this turret, but it's at a sacrifice. They did lose Dragon. And, well, in the end, they actually get a slight gold lead. Now, why is that significant? Well, Dragon is worth more gold than a turret. Dragon is worth 13k gold, or not 13k gold, 1,000 gold, 950 actually, and then a turret is worth 750. And I said 13k gold because I was looking at the gold numbers. So even though right now Team Dynamic have gotten 1,000 gold in global gold and 400 gold from the First Blood, they're still behind. And this was just from the beginning of the game, from the early lane swapping. This was just a cool move. And it won't work every time. Sometimes 4Not might get unlucky and Riven and Janna will meet. Sometimes they will get lucky and it'll be a situation like this. But it really lets them start an advantage, and it really lets them take advantage of Twisted Fate's passive. So their cohesiveness in the early game is going to be, alright, mess them up. And if we can get a good lane situation, we can go ahead and take advantage of TF's passive, which normally people don't care about, but when there's no fighting going on, when there's no kills or very few kills, as you can see, that gold difference will close quite quickly. Or grow quite quickly, actually. Now, what is 4Not's goal going to be? They want to catch people off. They want to go ahead and see someone like Cassiopeia, who will walk by this ward over here. They want to go, alright, can we kill her? And the answer is yes. This is a team very good at initiating 3v1s and 2v1s and just engagements like that where they have more numbers. Like as you saw right there, Paradoxical walked by a ward and immediately died for it. So if they ever see someone out of position, they can do stuff like that. Zig and Pixel, they wanted to help actually, but they couldn't. They could not get there fast enough. They do not have the same mobility. Let's go ahead and start looking at some of the items on 4Not. So Zeke has Akage's lucky pick just because he expects to go ahead and farm some more, and the extra AP will help his Howling Gale farm even more himself. Takashi X has Boots of Swiftness. And a Null Magic Mantle and a Large Rod. The boots, though, that's the big thing. That's the unique thing. Why does he have those boots? They're not common boots, especially on something like Twisted Fate. Well, looking at his move speed, is at 429 MS right now, despite only having those boots. He will eventually be picking up a Lich Bane, and he wants to stay really mobile. He wants to be very in, very out on Twisted Fate. The big problem Twisted Fate has normally is that he kinda, sucks at being in fights for very long, because once his cards go down, he has to back off, go ahead, pick a new card, and he can come back and start doing damage then. So this this works with his team, this works with Janna passive, and even Sona's E. They catch Pixel right here. This is mostly about blowing the flash, but blowing flash on a character like All-Star is actually a big deal because it means he cannot initiate and kill you by surprise quite as often or quite as easily. He can always come out of a bush and headbutt Pulverize, but it's no longer, oh, he flashed Pulverize and now headbutted someone back and we're screwed. But the composition, it's working, but the gold difference isn't massive. They have gotten one kill. They lost a dragon and they're still ahead in gold, so overall the team's doing well. They have been keeping up with the lane swaps, something I haven't really been touching upon, but they will, if they ever see themselves in a position where it's like, oh yeah, we see that Riven has gone to a good lane, they mess that up. Let's go ahead and once again talk about how quickly they catch someone out. So Pearl, by the way, amazing juke dodging Cassiopeia's ult. That's actually something cool to see. And we have Zeke teleport in, we have one bad bread walk down, and Twisted Fate will soon have his ultimate up and be able to get to that bot lane very quickly. The enemy team knows this. They have 4 people bottom, Cassiopeia did use her ult to escape, and they have to go ahead and just back off, and they'll lose that front turret, they'll lose this creep wave, and they'll be in danger of losing this next turret if they don't get back fast enough. And that's how 4Not plans to play this. They plan to play it very quickly, very aggressively. They'll do things like go ahead and use Takashi's ultimate just to grant vision, because they know they can go ahead and stay mobile and stay safe enough with it up to go ahead and be in position to catch someone. So they sacrifice some of their own mobility just to get vision, which may sound counterproductive because now, alright, Takashi X can't go ahead and chase people down, but if they see that they weren't going to be in that position anyways, it doesn't matter. Plus he does have blue buff, which will greatly reduce that cooldown. So, okay, back to the movement speed thing. Let's go ahead and look at some more movement speed numbers as they just push down this turret. Zeke at 439, Parole 381, does have Zerker's Greaves with Sona's E on her though, 385, and was over 400 when the better speed buff was on her. Martel, I'm sorry, you're still at 372, but Sona does have the disadvantage of being a support for when it comes to movement speed. One bad Brad, 551 with his burnout up, and he will go down to, let's see, 496? No, 439 when burnout's off. There we go. So they can move fast, but they will not contest Dragon. Now, They're going for mobility, they're going for speed. Why would they not go for this dragon? Why would they not try and fight this? Why are they still staying spread out? They're not good at team fights. They don't have an ultimate like Cassiopeia's, a big old AoE CC. They do have Sona's ultimate, but that's not considered quite as good. But they do have this mobility. Let's just watch this chase. Watch this chase. So we'll watch it from the perspective of Team Dynamic. So here's the odd one. He sees a ward go down. He knows someone's there. They see Takashi X. They chase him down. Okay, they go ahead. They're roaming around a bit. They're looking for One Bad Bread still. We actually have Zig getting caught out over here. One Bad Bread. All right, they'll try and catch him now. They do get close to him. He does get the fear off, but One Bad Bread just does that. Just leaps away and kills Zig. So with the way their team works, they don't need to get into team fights because they can run away from team fights. The odd one right there, he did use his ultimate to start off that fight. But any situation normally where 4Not is going to be in a bad fight, they can just back off. They can just be like, oh, you're going to kill us? You're going to murder us? We're going to go ahead and not be here now because we move faster. And I mean, I just went over the move speed. Most people on 4Not were over 400 or close to 400. And I think Tristana was actually behind it. But she'll be ahead when she gets a Zeal. Now, the move speed for Team Dynamic, though, 370 on Ribbon, 375 on Graves, 370 on Nocturne, 385 on Alistar, 382 on Cassiopeia. They're not very fast, but they are better in team fights. This is going to be what happens when TD and 4Not fight. Let's just watch Zion Spartan. This is a good example of what a good team fight would be like for them. Now, it's just a 1v1, but this will be the same for a 5v5. And then Parole dies to Ignite. So there just isn't good team fight on 4Not. They do have Sona Ultimate. Sona Ultimate's amazing, but Sona's not here for Ultimate. She's here for her E and the fact that she was really good in lane with Hymn of Valor, which is currently maxed out. So the way they play, the way they're going for it, it's a very specific thing in mind, and that's cool. This is kind of like Team Solo Mid when they have Kayle and Karthus. They'll focus on getting into a good fight where Karthus is just in the middle of their team because that lets him go crazy, lets Karthus do his thing. Right now with this composition from Team Dynamic, they're kind of not bad, but more of generic. It's like, all right, we're pretty good in lane, and we're really good at AoEing with the team fight. We're not like the best at it, but we're good at it. So they have their focus, and 4Not, they're just saying, screw it, you guys have your thing. We're not going to let you ever get away with it. We're not going to let you ever be in a good team fight, and if we are, we will lose that fight, but we are in such a good position not to let that happen, it won't. And this is kind of something cool that happens with the teams. Different teams will have their own strategies. Sometimes you'll see the global ults come out, which are getting nerfed heavily in PvE, so who knows if they'll make it alive. Sometimes they'll have, alright, we'll have a really sustainy team, maybe Soraka and Alistar, just to give a lot of healing done. We can push down turrets. Sometimes they'll have the really defensive teams. This is a mobile team, and it's a mobile team being played to their max. Now, why can't Team Dynamic just group up and push a lane down and just eliminate the enemy off the map? Just be like, all right, you guys split push, we'll kill you all at once. If you do not defend, we will just kill your turrets to win the game. Why cannot TD do that? That was actually a good sentence, but why can't would have sounded so much better. But why can't Team Dynamic just go ahead and push down a lane? This guy right here. Let's watch his tornado. Watch his tornado. He's not one-shotting melee creeps quite yet, but he's getting close. So if they wanna push, they'll have to deal with Zegan. And Zegan on Janna is one of the best lane clearers in the game. You get Helen Gale, it will hit every creep because creeps aren't really known for their juking capabilities, and that will pretty much stop any push. This is a big deal because this is their team having a weakness. If a team is not good at team fighting, you just push down a lane and just go ahead and pressure them and make them start taking their towers. They'll have to respond with a team fight generally. Zegan stops that though. It's like, all right, if you guys do take turrets, if you guys do push in a hard way, we can punish you. Also, really quickly, let's talk about Zegan's item build. He has a Deathfire Grasp. Why is that so cool? Janna only has 2 nukes, Helen Gale and Zephyr. They're actually quite good. A 1-to-1 ratio on Zephyr, 0.8 to 1 on Helen Gale, which is amazing. But why is that so good? Oh, I need to cover that gank actually. But I want to talk about this item build first. Why is that so good? this Deathfire Grasp, it gives her an additional nuke. It makes her that much stronger. It's supplementing her kit by giving her more CDR and covering her weakness by giving her one more nuke. Now, this is how 4Not excels in catching people off guard. So the ultimate is used by Takashi X, then it falls off. And this actually creates a false sense of security. They don't expect this. Do you expect that? I was casting this. I did not expect that. I saw that. I'm like, oh my god, they just did that. Which might sound really kind of dumb, but you don't expect such quick ganks. And once Twisted Fate has his ultimate down, people don't expect fights. But as I said before, it's very possible for 4Not to go ahead and engage fights they like and catch people off guard. So that was a 2v1. They're going to win this fight. And they're going to win this fight because of numbers. Tristana is in mid, Sona's coming up from behind, Janna's teleporting in. So what was actually right now a 3v2 is quickly going to be a 3v3. Janna shows up, goes ahead and splits off Pixel, splits off Paradoxical. Sona shows up, is going to ultimate Paradoxical. They're going to do something really cool here. So who's scary? Alistar? Kinda. Paradoxical? Yes. And here's Janna in action. Boom, baby. So what looked like an amazing team fight, and as I was casting this, it looked like an amazing team fight, was actually horrible for Team Dynamic. This demolished them. And Team Dynamic, they're an amazing team. They actually won this best of 3 series. Their bans for the game after this did include Janna and Twisted Fate, but they don't have a good response to 4Not's matchup or lineup. It's a 6-2 score, which isn't a huge difference, but just because of all the turrets that have been taken and all the CS and Twisted Fate's passive, they're really far ahead. That's a 5,000 gold advantage right now. A little less than 5,000, but close to it nonetheless. And there's only 4 kills. For every kill, they gain over 1,000 gold in difference. Excuse me. And, of course, this is what happens still when 4Not tries to engage in just normal straight-up fights. So, Tristana did use her ultimate, and she still dies. She tried to go ahead and dodge the ultimate from Riven with a rocket jump. It unfortunately was not enough. I think the damage was also more... No, the damage would have been less than an auto attack. But it doesn't dodge the ultimate, and she does die in the end. But that's kind of the problem they have there. But once again, 4Not's moving quickly. Takashi X has 451 move speed with just Lich Bane and no Sona. Sona round brings up to 455, and of course she does have her percentage-based move speed. And those dragons don't matter because they take out so many turrets. They have Zeke still up in the top lane, pushing this turret. They'll take this turret out themselves because they have the mobility. They just run faster than the enemy team, and they take advantage of this. They split push like crazy. They're across the map. They know that if every lane is pushed in, someone will have to be there to defend that, because if not, turrets will start taking damage and eventually fall. And of course, they'll miss a lot of CS. If they go ahead, if they keep the lanes pressured, if they keep moving around, Team Dynamic will at some point split off, and they will be there to catch the enemy team. This game ends in 9 minutes, so that's not too long. It's a decent amount of time for a game to end. You can see the timer right there, but this is how quickly their team will be able to take advantage and pressure it. So they have a 5,000 gold lead, and somebody recently posted on the Team Liquid forums that once a team has advantage past the 12-minute mark, they generally tend to win. Like, if you have the advantage at the 12-minute mark and you're a good team, you'll win your game. Most likely, 90% of the time. And the reason for this is, once you start winning fights, once you start getting things done, you take more with your fights. So, like, let's say you're ahead, and you get into a fight while pushing down this turret right here, and you guys die, and Baron's down. So they can't take Baron, they might push out and take a turret. But when you're ahead, you might be pressuring, you might be pushing down turrets like this, or fighting right here, and then you take a turret, you take another turret. Like, when you're fighting on the enemy team's ground, you're able to take their objectives more easily. That's why most teams will have an advantage and not lose it. 4Not, with the way they're playing, it's kind of the same thing. They're getting into fights in the enemy team's territory, and they're able to go ahead and take a turret when they kill an enemy, when the enemy is just out of position to defend that turret, which could easily mean, doing dragon or just not being right next to a turret. And they pressure, they move fast. This is their game plan. It's not going to stop. They're just going to stay mobile. If you look at their vision across the minimap, just check out the minimap, they have that top jungle super ward to protect Zeke, and this will let them always catch somebody who goes for red. This area of the jungle doesn't really matter that much because it's just blue buff. This turret's already dead. Like, they're not going to catch someone most likely. It's like if the enemy team goes for blue buff, they can always just go ahead and stop them. Now Takashi X, he will do cool things. He will use things like his ultimate just for vision. And the reason this is cool is because A, like I said, it creates a false sense of security. If you see Twisted Fate use his ultimate and don't see him poured in, you assume that he went, oh, I can't do anything, and backed off. And B, it grants them vision, and it's going to be something big for them. If the odd one, for example, catches someone off guard, or if they just kill someone, especially Zegan actually, then they can go ahead and push, it'll be a 4v5, they can take turrets. So right here, Takashi X uses his ultimate and is like, oh, they're kind of close by. I'll just back off, teleport somewhere else, and just keep pushing. So the odd one has to go bottom. He can teleport mid fairly quickly, but the pressure's on, it's splitting up the team quite a bit. And just overall, this has just been a mobile play. Wards are being denied as much as possible by One Bad Brad. They're taking red buff. They're just in the face of the enemy. And they have so much vision, while the enemy has just a very okay amount. There's no real wards in this jungle except up here. That 4Not can just keep running around. They can keep playing fast. They can keep playing loose, and they will not be stopped. Now, how do you stop this as team dynamic? Well, you have to catch somebody. You have to put the enemy in a position where they want to defend. If they can kill Zeke, that'll be the best thing for them, because they can no longer defend their lanes quite so easily. They'll have to have Twisted Fate back defending, which is going to be huge. But to really catch someone, especially Zegan, it's going to be difficult, especially if it's not Zegan. Zegan can always teleport in. If it's not Takashi X can teleport in. And of course, One Bad Brad and Pearl can be very mobile. So, what do? Well, winning more early game would have been great for them. And if not winning more early game, just trying to catch people when you expect them to put a ward down might have been their only option. But of course, it involves sitting in a bush and just trying to get lucky, which, as sexual as that sounds, it's not a good idea. Generally, if you're just sitting in a bush waiting for something, you're not doing something else, and there's no guarantee that they'll put a ward down. There's no guarantee they'll even care about the spot you're in. So it's unfortunately a huge risk that Team Dynamic didn't take, and they, honestly, it's fine. It's a big risk. If it didn't work out, they would just waste so much time. They'd put themselves behind. And look at Takashi X. Goes in, goes out. Graves, who does actually have a Zeal, only has 400 move speed. So even when that Phantom Dancer finishes, Graves will be slower than Twisted Fate. So Takashi X can run in, run out, do his thing, get his stun down, get his wild cards to land as follow-up, and he really can't be stopped. And this is true across the map. Now this is a weird comp to see. It's weird to say oh yeah, this can't be stopped because they're really fast. But they're playing in such a way that they will stay fast, they will be fast, and will be able to do a lot just because they're really fast. Now, the Baron pressure is also really high from 4Not. It doesn't take a lot for them to do Baron. They do have Shyvana, who's incredibly good at killing it. Shyvana, while she's not the best at killing it in terms of items, there is no wriggles, for example, she'll still clear it quickly. And I do love that they keep up that pressure, though. They keep that vision denied, because now they have people over here. So if they get spotted, they can easily get ganked, and someone like Riven in the bot lane won't be able to go ahead and stop Twisted Fate from getting out if he stays far back enough with his ultimate. So they have options over here. They know that Team Dynamic are going to be in a very scary spot to fight, and they just keep up that pressure. They do not stop the pressure. That is something important to do with most teams. You cannot really stop being aggressive. And the Baron does get started. There is no vision coming out from Team Dynamic. They do spot it now with a ward. And of course 4Not just backs up. And because they have Sona, because they have Janus Shield, no damage was actually taken. It was just a bit of poke here, a bit of poke there. Baron just going raw and vomiting his green stuff from the sky. Baron and Kog'Maw both sound very similar, by the way. And it works out. Now Takashi X, let's see what he does. He puts a ward down here. Alright, so he spots down Spartan. He uses his ultimate, and he just gets out of there. And what's that turn into? It actually turns into a blue steel. That was really cool. But that's just kind of how they work. That's his ultimate being used as vision, being in effect. That's just really cool. I love this composition. Now, unfortunately, it's very passive. Not a lot's happened. There hasn't been a kill for quite a while, but that's not a bad thing. There's only a 5,000 gold difference, 6,000 gold difference now, which is not massive, but Team Dynamic seems so far behind. Just looking at item builds, I mean, no one's that far ahead. There is Infinity Edge and Phantom Dancer for Tristana, but Graves is a Zeal behind and can almost afford the Phantom Dancer. And of course, he does have that extra Vamp Scepter, which I believe would be the difference. I mean, looking at Riven versus Janna, it's a Lich Bane and Deathfire Rest versus a Bloodthirster and Guardian Angel. There's no big difference. Even the people with kills, it's still Deathcap and Lich Bane versus Abyssal Scepter and Rhyhorn. So expensive items across the board, but the reason they just seem so far behind is because they don't have an answer for anything 4Not does. 4Not is roaming around the map. We've seen the gold lead growing from 4Not, never shrinking. And the only times they can really catch people off is if they're doing Baron or something like that. I believe this will lead to one of the coolest fights. Yes, this is going to end up with one of the coolest Baron fights in the game. I might be confusing games though, because like this, for some reason, I cannot remember the very end of this game. But there's only 90 seconds left in this game. That's not a lot of time. Yep. So Takashi X, he gets initiated on by Zion Spartan. Zion Spartan trying to chase down Takashi, not actually able to go ahead and keep up with Twisted Fate in the end. We do have Pearl coming down here, and what is going on across the map? Let's slow down. Zion Spartan's fighting here, just trying to get some CS as he dies, and Team Dynamic goes for Baron. There's 3 people down here. Janet teleported down here. Takashi X and Pearl are going to go ahead, sit around, and finish off Zion Spartan. They do this in a very cool way. Pearl walks in the bush first, so Zion Spartan has to either go in on him or go out, and then they're able to just clean up after that. Now, up here, we have Baron being taken. This is a 4v3, 4v2, and 4v3 now. They weren't able to actually catch anybody here. They're too fast. Like, they do get some damage on the one bad Brad. The Sun ult actually whiffs, but they're just not able to go ahead and really stop anything. One bad Brad poking in, and then it's just harassed from this point. Like, the way this fight's working, they're not really doing anything. They're just kind of poking in, poking out. And they got so much poking to Paradoxal, he actually has to back out of there. The Baron's been disrupted. It's down to 700 HP. It does get smoked, and Odd One does pick it up. But now they've lost Riven, and has given enough time for the rest of 4Not to show up. And that's the fight they wanted. Also, by the way, the best tornado. Hitting him through that wall. Pixel dies, actually gets picked up by Sona. Zig dies, as it happens. Cassiopeia was being chased by one bad Brad dies. And why did they win that fight? Because they poked in, they poked out. I mean, I'll just go ahead and cover it really quickly, because we did not get a good chance to actually see the very beginning of it. So just fast forward 4x, 8x even. Wait for Riven to go bottom. No. Okay. And this is what happens. So Team Dynamic, they're over here. They see 2 people down here. Pings go right onto Baron. One bad Brad tries to do something. They know that Shyvana or that Jen is in the bot lane. They saw her teleport down. They're like, all right, do it. And this is what I mentioned before. So they're poking in, they're poking out. One bad Brad's just tossing down E's, trying to get in there, trying to do something. Whoa, directed camera. And Paradoxal is just being poked by pretty much nothing. And then Zegan shows up and starts doing his thing. And then we saw what happens after that. So that was the 4Not lineup. And then let's watch that Nexus explode. Come on, come on, come on. Oh, it actually doesn't finish right there. A few seconds before the replay ends. So they won the game pretty much through staying very fast and very mobile. Oh, they also end the game up with pretty much no one alive except one bad Brad. But the game does go down. I guess there's also Sona, but people forget Sona's auto attacks. And they won through being mobile. And there are tons of compositions like this. So, for example, Team Solo Mid has the Kayle Karthus combination, where Kayle will shield Karthus, keep her alive, and Karthus will do his damage. Not keep her, keep him. I guess Karthus could be a guy. I've never read his lore. I do know he's dead, so it could be a Sheathus. And then there are just lots of compositions like this. For example, people talk about Kennen and Vladimir, where your goal is to have just crap loads of AoE everywhere. Vladimir goes in, goes, and the Hemoplague comes out. Kennen follows up, does his little yell, which I've already did Hemoplague, so I'm not doing the yell. And then Lightning strikes down, and it's just lots of AoE, lots of CC. And then Alistar might follow up, Sona might follow up, like, there's lots of CC. And there's lots of compositions like this. This is just a look at one. I do not feel bad about saying this about 4Not, just because people do know their composition already, and honestly, I see it get banned out quite a bit, so I'm not surprised that it happens, and teams know about it, so it's not like I'm revealing a secret. But having your own little concentrated goal, your concentrated team, it doesn't necessarily have to have a focused effort that's common. So this was move speed. This was not AoE. This was not something similar to that. This was not, alright, we're going to protect Tristana. No, this was a combination of move speed, global ultimates, and alright, they did have a bit of protect Tristana, a tiny bit, but they never really used it. Throughout the game, it was always just, Takashi being mobile, Janna being mobile too. And that's really it for this daily. I'll be doing the the Fun Friday thing I talked about, the OK Friday. But, yeah. Oh, if you bought ad space for the daily, go ahead, send an email to someone I will have put in the description, because they need to go ahead and finalize all the ad stuff. A lot of the reason I delayed it was because of tech stuff, but that's all solved now. So, yeah, I'll be going ahead and seeing you around, folks. Have a good night.